Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL. Literally knocked my water bottle off the table as I'm doing the intro, James. That was it. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
And my name is James.
It is time to review Game Week 34, James.
That was fun, wasn't it?
How many players did you have in the end?
Oh, I don't know. I have to check. About 8, I think.
I managed to get 9 out.
9, yeah.
So ended up being, for a lot of people, not a great week. Average was 39, which isn't too bad. I only scored 37. What about yourself?
I mean, the average is 39. Gareth Bale captaincy outscores that, right?
Yeah,
I got
that's true.
35. All I had was Son, Reggie on clean sheet, which should have been fucking more at the end of that game. Anyway, captain blank from Kane, Iheanacho assist. I lost. United Liverpool didn't affect me too badly because I only had Salah and Jota. No goalkeeper. Again, third week in a row, 0 points from a goalkeeper with Leno's no show. So it wasn't as bad for me as it's been for many others.
I got 37. I mean, Mendy returned for me, which is nice. And for once in a while, the guy got save points. I mean, he very rarely gets the extra 1 point.
Made one great save in the first half.
Sonny is in my team, although not as captain, and Iheanacho's assist. And that's your lot.
You must have had more 2-pointers than my 1-pointers.
Well, Harry Kane was my captain. Madison, Vidra, Lingard, Castagne all chipped in with 2-pointers. Stuart Dallas was my only 1-pointer.
Okay, where should we start with this podcast? Do we go FPL first, or do we just dive straight into what happened at Old Trafford on Sunday?
Let's talk about what happened at Old Trafford on Sunday. I think that's still the big talking point of what's happened. I mean, if you haven't seen what happened, then where have you been? Hiding under a rock. But obviously, the Manchester United-Liverpool game was postponed at 4:30 on Sunday after the crowd managed to get, or some fans, not the crowd, some fans managed to get inside the stadium and caused some damage, disrupted the bus coming out of the hotel, and to be honest, were pretty pissed off.
Oh yeah, they're definitely pissed off. There's no doubt about that. I think it's important to say why Manchester United fans protesting. I think the Super League has merely been a tipping point for protests that have been going on for over 10 years at Manchester United in terms of the ownership of the Glazers, the constant putting of the club into debt over and over again. Yes, they've spent money, but they've spent money which has been commercially generated in the main through merchandise, sponsorship, etc., etc. Obviously, they've got the biggest ground in the country, yada, yada, yada. So the protest is about the Glazers. It's not about the Super League. I think similarly with the protests at Arsenal, it's protests against Kroenke. It wasn't a protest against the Super League. The Super League has just merely been for these fans a tipping point to say enough is enough, because everything for United fans with the Glazers, I mean, Joel Glazer came out and said they need to re-earn trust again with Manchester United fans. There's never been any trust with them in the first place because they've never created any dialogue with the fans. So that's why what the Super League has obviously done is highlighted what fans want, which is the same what happens to their football club, to primarily, to be honest, for the majority overall, that this obviously doesn't happen again. In the Manchester United Supporters Trust statement, one of the points they've said where they've demanded, I'm not sure that's quite right, but they've demanded answers from the Glazer family by Friday, is that they have to have fan representation in conversation to make sure a Super League never happens again. But they want the Glazers out. There's no doubt about it. There's no trust. There's no relationship between owners and fans. And when we say relationship, we're not saying that the owners should go down the pub and have a beer with the fans. Dialogue.
Dialogue. I mean, the word that springs to mind for me is honesty. The problem is there's a lack of trust, and you have to build trust by being honest. And sometimes what they say in statements and what they say in meetings is not always what they follow through with, especially at your club as well. So I can understand why the Manchester United fans were so upset. Now, a lot of people have condemned the protests, and I think it's very easy to quickly say, oh, things went wrong. There was a bit of violence. Obviously, the police were hurt as well. But to condemn the protest, I think, is actually wrong, because the protest was there for a specific reason. I think it's easy enough to condemn the violence, and that's stupid. No one's saying that they should take it to that extreme. But I think the protest was well and truly justified.
I'm pleased that the game was postponed. Mm-hmm. Remove fantasy for a moment. Fantasy doesn't come into my thinking.
Yeah, of course. It's not even.
I'm pleased that the game got postponed. We did a podcast on Patreon the day Tottenham played Southampton before I went down to Tottenham, which we released to everybody. It's available to everybody to listen to if they still want to. And I obviously spoke about going down to Tottenham. The two things I said, though, was respect the police, don't damage the stadium. Mm-hmm. Was the only two things I said. So there's some police videos that I've seen. We spoke about this yesterday on our Patreon pod, which are not good. I've seen a Manchester United fan who's been grounded, being punched by a police officer. That police officer's in the fucking shit, I should imagine. I think, generally speaking, it's obviously crossed the line between police and fans. I don't agree into breaking into the stadium. If they did, if a gate was opened for them, it's fucking fair game, personally. Mm-hmm. But I can't condone the idiot smashing up the camera crew. And I know what the message is there, disrupt Sky's coverage and stuff like that. He's one cameraman. He's gone there to film the game, or it's nothing to do with him. No. The throwing of flares and stuff like that is not particularly on, whatever you think of the likes of Graham Souness, etc. So I think there were a minority that pushed it too far, in my opinion. And there's a little bit of concern that it's blurred the lines of what the message should be, particularly for Manchester United fans. But the message that goes across the country and the globe is extremely powerful in terms of the anger amongst fans. Because what happened at Old Trafford could have happened at Arsenal Friday a couple of weeks ago if they'd managed things differently before they played Everton, for example. I'd spoken on that podcast we did about how can we get Tottenham Southampton postponed. Now, that was never going to happen at Tottenham because there wasn't enough people turned up. But my thoughts were, well, if you all sit in a row, the coach ain't getting in the ground. It's as simple as that. And United have obviously, they've communicated. The United fan organisation on Sunday was far better than the stewarding at the organisation of Manchester United and the organisation of the police. Because you and I spoke last week and said it's going to kick off at Old Trafford on Sunday. Yeah. So they had to know it was going to happen. I think it went a little too far, but I was really pleased that the game got postponed in terms of the message it sends out to these people. Like, don't fuck with our football.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's down to civil disobedience, isn't it? The arguments that I've seen that of people that have come out and said things like, look, we've got ways and means of speaking to the Glazers that doesn't involve this kind of protest, i.e. write them letters and various things like that.
That doesn't work. That's part of the problem. We've tried all that for over 10 years, United fans.
I agree. And this is why I'm not so condemning of how extreme, almost, if you want to call it. Definitely the violence, condemn it. But eventually there's this thing called civil disobedience, isn't it? And you just be disruptive to the extent that's safe and doesn't cause people or property any harm, but be disruptive as much as you want, civil disobedience. At this point now, I think, had they just done what happened at Spurs before your Southampton game and just hold up a few banners and that's it, it would have been much easier for the owners and the police and so on to brush it under the carpet. So, a couple more games of this and they'll just pipe down and life will move on, especially if Manchester United, for example, win the Europa League. Then suddenly there's another trophy in the bag. They've got Champions League football, which they pretty much got now anyway next season. So that there is something to be said that the civil disobedience is the level of protest that was needed to prick everybody's ears up and for the owners to start taking notice. So I'm all for safe civil disobedience.
There's a few people obviously in the story that I feel sorry for. I do feel sorry for the players and the staff at both clubs who were affected, who really their job's to go and play football and go and entertain everybody, really, in terms of our public want. They weren't able to do so. It must have been a difficult day for them. But the message has just been so powerful. I think United get dot points, by the way.
Seriously?
Yeah. And no, I don't think it'll matter. Like, I think they'll get. I think the game will happen. I'll explain in a bit when I think the game's going to happen. But I think they'll get docked probably 3 points, which isn't going to make a difference to their league season. But I can see that happening. Like basically, Manchester United have because of their security have been unable to fulfill a game of football. The problem was that nobody seemed to realise was once fans got into the stadium, and there were reports, which I still don't know if are true or not, that people got into the dressing rooms, your COVID bubble has been completely compromised. At that point, the game couldn't happen, right? So it's
What's
a security breach on. Well, there is no precedent. This is the first time a Premier League game has ever been postponed because of fan protests. It's the first time it's ever happened.
Do you think it's possible then that, say there's 3 points in the title between Arsenal and Tottenham, and there's one game to go at the end of the season, that rival fans would dress up and get a game postponed to get a team docked points? This is the thing that I'm concerned about with the docking of the points. What kind of world is open? And this is a very clear scenario where we know it's Manchester United fans, and so I don't think there's any kind of bad actors in amongst the crowd. But if a team can't fulfill a fixture because of circumstances like this,
Manchester United's organisation for that football match was not good enough. Simple as that. They were unable to fulfill a fixture because their security was breached. That's a big deal.
Do you think Manchester United might have said to the Premier League or to Sky, we want to play this game at 12:30 or 12 o'clock? We don't want a 4:30 game.
Possibly, and I think when it's rearranged, it might be at that time because it's something else we spoke about yesterday. It's quite clear that by the time the kickoff was meant to happen, there were a lot of people hanging around with beer cans, etc. Who were obviously a little bit pissed up and stuff. You get pissed up, you get a bit braver about life, etc. So I think there's a fair chance that when the game is rearranged, it could well be at 12 o'clock on a Sunday, for example. It's unfortunately something that is probably going to get looked at again in the future for high-profile games, where obviously Sky want their games at 5:30 Saturday, 4:30 Sunday, or their third choice is generally 8 o'clock on a Monday. I think you're more likely to go back to United v Liverpool's being 1:30 p.m. on a Sunday once crowds go back and stuff, maybe even 12 o'clock. Back in the day when Sky first originally started showing Saturday games, they were at 11:15 in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if we get back to that. To stop, obviously, people consuming alcohol prior to. I'm not saying, I'm not even certain when I say I think United will be docked points, that necessarily should happen. I'm not sure. I just actually think that it probably will. And I think it's an easy get out because it's not going to affect Manchester United's season in the slightest if they were docked 3 points, for example. It literally makes no difference to their season. They're still going to finish
the
second.
FA can turn around and say, well, we did something,
There's that,
or the Premier League, whoever's administering the punishment. And so this weekend, we've got City have a home game against Chelsea. I don't see any protests at the end, to be honest with you. Liverpool at home to Southampton. That's an 8 p.m. Saturday night game. Do you think there'll be protests there?
No. I think the reason United and Arsenal is bigger than the others is because this has been brewing for a very, very long time. And I think underneath that is Liverpool. And underneath that is Tottenham, where there's still quite a split between Tottenham fans because we've spoken about it. It's better the devil you know, right? It's not going to be easy for someone to come in and buy the football club. I mean, Arsenal is obviously heightened as well because Daniel Ek of Spotify, he's putting his cards on the table and saying, I want to buy the football club. There isn't that person at the moment for Tottenham to kind of instigate to go, right, that's the person Tottenham fans want to take their football club. So I think it's United, Arsenal at the top of this in terms of their anger. Then under that comes Liverpool. Then under that Tottenham, City and Chelsea, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
So Arsenal, West Brom on the Sunday night, 7 p.m. kickoff.
Could be.
There could be protests there.
Could be an issue. The thing with the Emirates is as well, it's kind of on a raised level. The only entrances to actually get to the stadium, you either have to go upstairs or you go across walkways that go across a railway line. There's only one way for a coach to go in, and that's via that roundabout on the corner when you come off Holloway Road, and that's where there's an underground parking underneath the stadium. Everything goes in there. If they block it off, they block it off.
Yeah, I mean the players will just get into the ground at 11 in the morning for a 7 p.m. kickoff.
That's not going to happen. It's not realistic, Suj.
No, that's true.
So yeah, I'm playing Fraser Forster this week because Ralph Hasenhüttl said he was going to play the next 2 games.
Did he?
I wouldn't expect further games to be postponed because I think preventative measures will be put in place by Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect for that game at the weekend. I guess Sunday night at that time's not. You have to remember as well. This was not only was it a Sunday 4:30 p.m. kickoff, it was also a Sunday on a bank holiday weekend as well. So it was basically a Saturday.
Yeah.
Whether Arsenal will get the crowd that they want for a 7:15 kickoff on a Sunday night, I'm not quite convinced.
7 o'clock, I think it is.
And I'm not aware that there's anything planned, particularly from Arsenal fans either. It's more the bigger issue in terms of when the United Liverpool game's rearranged, what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because presumably they are going to cordon off the whole area massively. They have to. And presumably United will have to probably stay in a different hotel, make that location secret, which someone's going to find out about anyway.
Of course.
So they will try again.
Yeah, the Supporters Trust have said they are going to continue to protest until and when they get proper dialogue. So watch this space is really, really interesting. From an FPL point of view, obviously, we now think that the Liverpool-West Brom game may be moved to Thursday and added to this game week 35. And then obviously Manchester United-Liverpool will take the place of that Liverpool-West Brom game.
The only real solution to play the Manchester United-Liverpool game is to have it on Sunday the 16th, I believe it is, which is when Liverpool are currently scheduled to play West Bromwich Albion. Now, that weekend is obviously available because Manchester United currently blank, right? So you could put the United-Liverpool game there, and then West Brom-Liverpool becomes easier to rearrange. You could just bring it forward, we think, to the Thursday of the upcoming game week 35. Play it at 6 o'clock. It's got its own TV slot, everything. And West Brom Liverpool aren't playing that midweek. So it actually seems a quite straightforward solution, actually. It's probably just a case of, in terms of the fact we don't know yet, and this is not confirmed, is West Brom need to agree to the change. But I suspect, unfortunately, whether West Brom like it or not, they'll just get told. And probably the dialogue at the moment is probably happening because the available slot is obviously for United, Liverpool to be at 4:30 on a Sunday. And I'm pretty sure the police think you ain't doing that. So it's probably a case of shoving the other fixtures around. For example, Tottenham and Wolves then perhaps becomes 4:30. The 12 o'clock game becomes 2 o'clock. And I think United Liverpool is probably going to be 12 o'clock on a Sunday. I think that's probably where we're heading.
Yep, I agree with you. And it also then means that the game week 36 blank, where a lot of people were going to get affected quite badly. Now, if that Manchester United Liverpool game drops in there, for me, that's 4 players automatically. So I don't even need to use my free hit to cover off game week 36 now. So I'm left with my free hit.
You don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I've already got 9 doublers for game week 35. Plus 2 free transfers. I'll have more than enough to get a full team out in game week 36 because I've got 4 from Liverpool, Manchester United, a couple of Spurs, West Ham in there. And I've got, so I'll easily be able to cover off that. So
how many Arsenal you got?
1, Rob Holding.
How many Leicester?
3.
How many
Castagne,
Chelsea?
Madison, Iheanacho, Mendy. So 5.
And 1 Chelsea, you've got 5. Who's your other goalie?
Fraser Forster.
That's going to be a problem. So what Ralph Hasenhüttl said on Friday, and I have to credit Colm Hayes, who found this quote from after the game on Friday night, was he said that Forster will play the next 2 games. Now, Southampton obviously play Liverpool on Saturday in 35 and obviously have to rearrange fixture with Crystal Palace in Tuesday. So if that's correct, Fraser Forster is going to play both games in the double, which then presumably means Alex McCarthy comes back in for game week 36 against Fulham, leaves you without a goalkeeper. So all you'd need, if you want to get to 11 this week, 2 free transfers, a -4 in 36, give yourself a goalkeeper and sell one of the Leicester players or Rob Holding, and you've got 11 out again.
So I don't need to. So the alternative is to look at this double, this week's double, and say, look, can I be more aggressive with the teams that I'm targeting and go all out with my free hit? Because at the moment, triple Leicester, I mean, the second game get away at Manchester United isn't too tidy, but truth be told, Manchester United then go into such a run of congested fixtures, or coming off the back of the second leg, then the Leicester game, then the Liverpool game. But to be honest with you, I mean, their only focus is the Europa League. Let's be honest with you. I mean, with the league, they're getting top four.
Well, the one thing to bear in mind with Manchester United as well is, and I guess this is future thinking. They're 6-2 up. Let's assume they're going to make the final. The final is 3 days after the last game of the season. So Manchester United are likely to play basically a second team at Wolves on that Sunday in the final game of the season. So if you've got treble United, there's every chance if you've got, I don't know, say Fernandes, Shaw and Greenwood or something, there's every chance that none of them are going to play in game week 38. So you should factor that into your thinking. The 3 games after Villa this Sunday, if the Liverpool game is rearranged as we're suggesting, it's Leicester at home on a Wednesday, Liverpool at home on a Sunday, and then Fulham at home. I presume it will be a Wednesday as well. I can't see them going Thursday, Sunday, then Europa League Wednesday. So the Fulham game would probably be the Wednesday. They'll pick their strongest team against Liverpool, won't they? The Leicester game's 4 days before, so probably go quite strong again. I think the team at Villa is probably dependent on who plays in Rome on Thursday night, and you'll probably get some rotation for the Fulham game as well. But I think actually up to game week 38, I think Fernandes, for example, will still play the majority of the games. It's actually just the final game. He's actually going to be the biggest problem, I think, for the United assets. I was kind of setting my thinking that Bruno was probably going to be the best captaincy choice for this week. And I was saying to people on my stream on Thursday, I wouldn't sell him because I think come next week, he's going to be the standout captaincy choice. And obviously, if he gets rested at Roma on Thursday night, which they're 6-2 up, he should do. They should leave him on the bench unless they need him. Then obviously he's a great shout for 35. He'll have Villa away on the Sunday, Leicester at home on the Wednesday, and he'll play both. And then he'll play against Liverpool on the Sunday. Bruno plays the majority of the games. The thing is, if Liverpool have now got that double of Southampton at home and West Brom away, then it's very difficult to look beyond Salah as by far the outstanding captaincy choice for this game week if that double happens. The one bit of advice I can give everyone from an FPL perspective is don't be making transfers till we've got some information. And I don't think if they want to move West Brom Liverpool into next Thursday, this isn't going to go much beyond the next 48 hours or so. I'm pretty sure you're going to know before the deadline comes around on Friday. Imagine if we didn't and it got added. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I'm so convinced it'll happen. I think I'd captain Salah anyway. And there's a good chance in Salah's case, there's every chance that Salah will play Southampton on Saturday night, won't play against West Brom next Thursday because of Manchester United. It'll probably be 3 days later and it could be inside a 72-hour turnaround. So there's no guarantee the Liverpool players will play twice. It's worth saying.
In addition,
their need for winning is massive, Liverpool, right?
Did we ever figure out if Mo Salah's fasting? Because if he is, obviously that has an impact as well. Both games will be evening kickoffs. We saw yesterday in the West Ham game with Ben Rama, about 35 minutes into the game or what have you, breaking fast and getting some food on. And that it's not easy to be. That would have made it around about 8:45.
When does it end?
I'm not sure.
Google it.
I'm not sure. I'm about to.
You Google it, and I'll chat some waffle for a minute.
You don't ever know exactly, and it's to do with the moon, I think. So, from my understanding, it's like a couple of days before it's due to end. You'll know exactly which day it falls on because it's not the same calendar. It says here it will be on the evening of between the evening of Wednesday the 12th and Thursday the 13th of May. So middle of next week.
It might, if it's Thursday the 13th, it might be all right.
The West Brom game. So yeah, I may go different, because I don't own Salah. So I'm just thinking, you know what, if I'm going to take a punt, just get Mane in and stick the armband on him and go big.
I don't mind that. I would be very surprised from here if Liverpool West Brom's not brought forward into 35 to give the two teams double. West Brom's double would be Arsenal away and Liverpool at home. So if you've got Sam Johnson, you can go and celebrate by yourselves. But remember that they'll then blank in 36. I think it's important to say there's a lot of people obviously quite down about FPL this week. Don't get me wrong. If you had like 5-6 players in that fixture, it's an absolute sickener. Then add in the likes that some popular players, Leno, Holden, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Man City players.
Everyone at City.
Loads of players left out as well, right? So I know that there's teams out there who genuinely have ended this game week with sort of like 5-6 players. It's brutal. The good news is, if this movement happens you're going to walk into a position where the maneuvering of the fixtures, because you've already got those players, is going to be very good. You're about to have a very strong team for game week 35. And obviously you won't have to get rid of the United players. Yes, obviously it's going to probably be Liverpool in 36, but if that happens, you're not going to have to get rid of the players. So you might even find yourself in kind of the position that Suj is in at the moment. He's got this free hit left. And this time last week, we're going, do you use it in the double or use it in the blank? And looking at it now, I go, I don't even want to fucking use it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Exactly.
And that could be literally because one game got postponed and gets rearranged. It's incredible.
Wow. Yeah. And obviously the high ownership in that game. I may even, at the moment, I only own 2 Liverpool players. My transfer this week, just to get the rotation headache out, and if I don't really want to move any other players on, might be as simple as Mendy to Alisson and just stick Alisson in goal for the rest of the season.
I've thought about that as well. I don't like it, but I've thought about it. I think for me,
Leno's causing you a problem, isn't he? So
yeah, but then
Mendy isn't so much.
If those Hassan Hootel quotes are okay, then all right. Look, it's not the best double for Southampton. But if I've got a keeper guaranteed basically for 2 games, I'm just going to go with it, aren't I? You know, he could go to Anfield and save a penalty, couldn't he? And he could keep a clean sheet against Palace and easily rock up with 15, 16 points. He's more likely to end up with 3, don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to change that then till the week after. The week after got a problem because obviously Arsenal don't play. And presumably from what Hassan Hootel was saying, McCarthy will come back in the team. But my thinking is we'll probably deal with that then. And just pick someone up for the final 3 games or so. So it might even be someone like Fabianski with West Ham's last 3, Brighton, West Brom, Southampton, something like that. There's certainly other alternatives. Jordan Pickford would walk straight into Sheffield United at home, Wolves at home. Not the 2 good fixtures before obviously a difficult game at Man City. Even like Dubravka, he's got Man City first, but then Sheffield United, Fulham in the last 2. So I think I'll deal with the alternatives for that as and when that comes around in 36. Plus, in the case of, say, Alisson, you just go and buy Nat Phillips, right? If you've got a defensive issue in any, go and buy Nat Phillips, who's back fit, available at 4 million, and it gives you the money to go elsewhere. That could be the difference. If you're sitting there with, I don't know, someone who's sort of 6 million-ish or so, say you're still sitting there with Ruben Diaz, going Ruben Diaz to Nat Phillips this week might be what enables you to go from Son to Bruno or Son to Salah or Mane, for example, to get you the doubler. So, my intention at the moment, I don't own Bruno, but I own Salah. If the Liverpool double happens, then I'm going to captain Salah. Therefore, for me, I can't see the worth of just going in to get Bruno when his effective ownership is going to be massive again this coming week, in spite of that, the Salah likely being the most popular. So I wouldn't bother. So I think for me, it'd be a case of targeting Liverpool. I'd be going with no Manchester United most likely. And as I said last week, like people like Zaha is very much on my mind. So I could do, and I haven't decided what I'm doing yet this week, but something like Reguilon to Phillips, Rafinha to Zaha. And then I've just got to decide who I leave out, whether it's like Lingard or Son, which then all of a sudden from looking at it and thinking I'm going to be in big trouble this week, I'll have 11 doublers as well with 2 free transfers and going, what do I do? I mean, if I didn't sell Kane and I used 2 free transfers to get doublers, I'm either leaving Kane out or I'm leaving a doubler out. I literally, we've got here because of one postponement where I think for many people, and I've only got 2 Liverpool players, just suddenly the idea of Liverpool having a great double and then covering 36 is so obvious. That's what the majority of people, if Liverpool's game in West Brom gets moved, the majority of people who don't already have free Liverpool are going to be buying Liverpool this week.
And for me, like I said, it might be Sadio Mane. The way I see it now, I've got a free hit and 5 transfers between now and the end of the season. My rank is at 480k. It's flatlined. I have improved it over the season, but it's nowhere near where I want to be. And it's 4 weeks and in 4 game weeks. Within 4 game weeks, slate's going to be wiped clean. We're all going to be on 0 points and I'm going to be looking forward to next season. So I may as well make the most of it. The one mini league that I thought I might be able to win and I really wanted to win, my mate captain Heung-min Son, so that's dead in the water. It's only because he didn't own Kane. So that's dead in the water with a 61 point difference in 4 game weeks. Not going to happen. So I may as well have a bit of fun. And I think if you're in a similar boat to me as well, 2, 3, 400k, unless you're really gunning for your highest ever finish, just swing and have a bit of fun, because again, anything could happen in the last few game weeks.
We've been talking for half an hour. Should we go through the games?
Let's
We're never going to finish.
Yeah. Southampton won, Leicester won. Unexpected point for Southampton. I did think Leicester would go and comfortably do the business, but James Ward-Prowse picking up another goal, another penalty. Yeah, I mean, meh for Leicester.
He's such a boring pick, James Ward-Prowse, but he will do the job for a lot of people over the next 2 game weeks. There's no doubt about it.
8 goals, 6 assists, so 14
Is that what
attacking
he's
returns.
got? That's good.
Yeah, in 34 games. Yeah, it's not bad at all, right? 1 in 3, give or take. It's a bit better than 1 in 3.
He's consistent as, and obviously, presumably, Danny Ings is still going to be out. As we're saying, he's going to be on the pens as well. He's on the free kicks. He's on the corners. There's so many avenues, actually, to James Ward-Prowse potential returns. He's definitely not the worst pick this week. Everybody must have thought the same thing when Vestergaard got sent off. Like internally, again? Like, is this really? Because literally, it certainly went through my mind when he got sent off was, well, how many is this going to be? Mm-hmm. It didn't even occur to me that Southampton would still get sent out of the game. And just psychological of the 2 9-0s that had gone before, it can't be that this happened again. Unlike the other 2 times where they had a player sent off early in the game, this one was debatable. Very debatable. I think
that as many people say yes as no.
I think more are saying no. I didn't agree with that. I think it's Jamie Redknapp and Darren Bent were doing the game Friday night, and they were like, no way. Because he lunges in because of a bad control. Then obviously he plays the ball back to Vardy. It's not 100% clear that Vardy wouldn't have got to the ball before McCarthy, because Vestergaard didn't get huge pace on the ball, although McCarthy probably would have got there first. So there's a potential denying of the goal scoring opportunity. Plus, I think if that tackle happens on the halfway line, he's getting booked. So when you combine the 2 together, I'm not actually surprised that the referee ended up sending him off. So I presume, I don't know if Southampton had intention to appeal the decision or not. I think he was sent off for denying of goal scoring opportunity, which would mean he only misses the 1 game. So right. you should bear that in mind if he's going to miss the Liverpool game. For others, you might be looking at thinking, oh, well, Jack Stevens or Salisu suddenly nailed for the double. They might not be, is what I'm saying. Ryan Bertrand's fitness will potentially have an impact on Stevens and Salisu as much as Vestergaard being suspended for the Liverpool game. Can't see me looking at Southampton now. That comment from Hassan Hootel on Friday, that's gold for a lot of people to get that clarification if it's right, because there'd be many of us sitting there with sort of Leno Forster or Mendy Forster thinking, what am I doing here? Am I even... I was thinking about the idea of playing Forster in goal anyway and thinking, well, I wonder if McCarthy plays at Liverpool and I've got Forster on the Palace, that'll do. It feels like it's sod's law that Ryan will play against West Brom and Leno will play at Chelsea. And there's also a little bit of thinking as well in terms of, is it possible that Mendy plays against Man City and then Kepa plays against Arsenal, presuming that Kepa's going to play the FA Cup final as well?
Is that what you think will happen with the Chelsea?
No, I think...
So I feel like Mendy is a much safer bet to go with than Leno.
I agree. Yeah, no. Rotation FPL, Ted, our Chelsea correspondent, he put on our Patreon Slack channel that his thoughts were that Mendy would play twice. And that Kepa's been more likely to then retain his place after a cup game. So it could be, say, if Kepa wins the final, he thinks that perhaps he could get rewarded by playing the Leicester game. But if the Leicester game's still important to them, I can't really see that happening, to be very honest. So I would think that Mendy would play both league games.
Thoughts on Leicester? I mean, we're both tripled up. Is there a time to come off now? Do people need to start thinking about offloading their Leicester assets?
It was disappointing for them because obviously from that position, they should be winning the game. They had a big problem in the first half with Fofana and Siyuncu and the way they were coming out with the ball, just weren't creating overloads. So actually, Southampton sat in a 4-4-1 system after the red card. I found the game quite easy to manage, actually. Leicester they weren't creating chances all over the place. Of course, they were dominating the game. Did they do enough to win it? Not really. In terms of the assets, you wouldn't be buying now, I don't think, for the double, particularly if Liverpool's obviously happens, because you've missed 3 good fixtures. I think they'll play their strongest team against Newcastle on Friday, and then I think depending on the result and the results of other games, they could mass rotate at Old Trafford. next Wednesday. If they've got themselves a nice sort of 8-point buffer or something with 3 games to go, I think they'll take the chance. They'll know they'll beat Tottenham last day of the season. if they have to. Exactly, yeah. So I think they'd take a chance. And Rodgers has done this before. Think of when they played Crystal Palace over Christmas. He changed like the whole team, doesn't he? He did that at West Ham last year.
Yeah.
Not afraid to put massive rotations. So I think for the Leicester players, if, say, the Liverpool double didn't happen, I might end up captaining Iheanacho this week, where I'd look at it and go, right, well, I've got Newcastle at home first. Great. Anything at Manchester United would be a bonus. I think in terms of coming off, it depends what you want to buy, right? But I think they're the one probably to move on in 36, considering they blank in 36. And then obviously play Chelsea away in 37. Tottenham in 38, jokes aside, is obviously not the easiest fixture either. So I think my thoughts are at the moment that I'll probably move Vardy on in 36, and it might be that Fofana and Iheanacho sit on the bench, and it might be that I don't end up using Fofana again. That's probably where I'm at with it. But you're not going to sell now, are you? First and foremost, they've got a brilliant fixture Friday night against a Newcastle team who didn't turn up against Arsenal on Sunday. So that's a great game. Treat the United game as a bonus and then worry about it afterwards. But strategically, obviously, if you've got Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal players, you need to be having a look at what your exit plan is for 36. How many players are you left with? It's probably likely that the situation becomes more manageable now, assuming Manchester United have a fixture in there. But I haven't got any Man United players, so I've got 3 Leicester, 1 Chelsea, 1 Arsenal. So I'd be in a position where I'm going to be in trouble for 36. So I think for me, it's 2 free transfers this week, -4, probably 36 to get rid of bits. And I think it's Vardy that would go first.
For me, it's funny. I've got Castagne, Maddison and Iheanacho. Maddison's the one of the 3 that's given me no return so far. Castagne and Iheanacho have. But finally, Iheanacho might be the one that I move on in game week 36. As opposed to Maddison, just because there's no logic to this, but when a player has been returning for a while, how long can it keep going on for? So I feel like
gambler's fallacy, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think moving on from Iheanacho to, and the thing is, we'll talk about it when we get to the last game, but an Antonio that looks fit as you like. I mean, I haven't seen him look so fit in a while. Is an interesting differential for the last 3 games of the season. And one thing is for sure, like as long as he stays fit, I'll enjoy owning Antonio in the last 3 games of the season. Whereas Maddison, I mean, he's always there or thereabouts. So at any point he can return. And I haven't got many alternatives in that spot in midfield. Castagne is going to stay with me, I think, for now. I haven't got anywhere to go from him. Let's get onto the Saturday games. The early kickoff: Crystal Palace 0, Manchester City B team 2.
Brilliant moment from Guardiola when he pretended to tip his hat for Aguero. I've been warning against Aguero week on week on week on week. Make no apologies for warning against it. He is, interestingly, 1 goal away from Wayne Rooney's record of most goals scored for 1 Premier League club. So he needs 1 to equal that, 2 to beat it in obviously his remaining games. Thing is, though, is Aguero playing against Chelsea on Saturday?
No.
I highly doubt it.
No.
Highly doubt it.
I think a lot depends what happens tonight against Paris Saint-Germain. They've won the league, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, even that running period, which is it's going to be quite spaced out as well, where it's Newcastle Friday, Brighton is probably going to end up being the Tuesday, and then the final game of the season on the Sunday. There's nice space in between that. Would he play? Here's the thing I think is important. Aguero's likely to get more minutes, in my opinion, if City went out the Champions League. I don't think there's kind of an idea that if City makes the final, then they'll rest players in the running. I'm not convinced that that's the answer. I've spoken in the past about, say, what Tottenham and Liverpool went through in 2019 and the 3-week gap between the final and the end of the season and the players' fitness not being quite right. They're better off carrying on playing for the majority of them. And there'll definitely be rotation over that period. Like Aguero probably will play against Everton in some capacity on the final day of the season. He could well play at Newcastle next Friday night. Is he going to play all 3 games? I could only see it as a possibility, like I said, if City went out to PSG. So wouldn't be on radar. Definitely wouldn't be on my radar for this week anyway, against obviously a stingy Chelsea defensively. It's interesting that the defensive players that they brought into the team were more expensive than the players that they left out. Which
from a purchase price, not from a quality point of view.
No. Listen, going with the likes of Aki and stuff is definitely weaker than what they've got. But he obviously speaks volumes for the strength in depth that they've got. They don't have great depth in the attacking areas, though. Raheem Sterling disappointed again. I actually feel like it's clear now that he's not part of City's best 11. There's a bigger story about that for England in the summer, potentially, which I think we're going to have to come back to. At the moment, you couldn't justify playing him over Foden or Mahrez. The only way he's getting in the team is if Foden plays false 9 in the biggest games. Now, again, Sterling's going to get some minutes, but I think going back into Manchester City is not going to be easy. And I think I'm probably without now for the rest of the season.
It's going to be how I was going to ask. Like I don't own and I don't want to buy because I don't want the headache of rotation and then missing out on players. I'm just not interested in going back in for any City at the moment.
I see a lot of people have got Vardy to Aguero kind of on the back of what we've just said, penciled in for game week 36. And it could be an absolutely brilliant punt for you. But I think as and when we get there, people are going to be carrying players who are not going to play. You're probably going to want to go with someone who's got a little bit more security that they're definitely going to play. And I just don't see it with Aguero, to be honest. Magnificent goal, brilliant finish. He is one of the best finishers I've ever seen in this league. But he just still does not appeal for me from an FPL perspective. And guessing City teams coming week's not going to be easy. To be honest, Palace is more of interest to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a double away at Sheffield United, away at Southampton. But are you talking about Palace are more interesting to just pick up a couple of bench fillers just in case you need them? Or do you want to go big and go to a PVA or a Wilfried Zaha or, dare I say it, Luka Milivojevic with his pens and all the rest of that?
Well, I think Zaha might even be on the pens now. I just don't think that's certain that Milivojevic would even be on them. Zaha's obviously the standout. He's got the explosiveness. The fact that the games immediately are away from home are more productive for him, arguably. If Villa show the openness that they showed at Everton on Saturday, Zaha will potentially have some joy against them in game week 36 as well. And if Arsenal do get to Europa League final, that fixture in 37 could be quite a heavily rotated Arsenal team for that as well. So the fixture run's not too bad. If you go Zaha, I think you're playing in 35, 36, 37. And you know the danger of him. It's going to piss you off. You know he's probably going to let you down. I haven't ruled it out yet. I just like the possibility of Sheffield United and Southampton. Let's be honest, those have been the 2 worst teams in the league in 2021. Sheffield United and Southampton. So that really appeals. The fact that Sheffield United is the first of the double and the Villa game will cover for 36 makes some of the defensive assets quite interesting. So PVA's off table, I think, because Tyreek Mitchell, 3.8 million, came back into the team at the weekend. Does he stay in the team? I'm not quite sure. We'll speak to Mig about it on COTC on Friday because he's coming on. But I don't know if there's anything, the fact that Mitchell played because it was Manchester City. There could be something in that. So I think there's a little bit of risk.
Than an attacking fullback.
I would say if the money's not a problem and you want to go one defensively, go for Joel Ward.
Right.
At 4.3 is the safer way to go. Unless you are desperate to come down to that Mitchell money, don't. I would go to Joel Ward. Klein wasn't in the squad at the weekend. If he's not back fit, Martin Kelly will not take Joel Ward's place. Joel Ward will play at right back. So at 4.3 is still cheap as, and obviously it's the sort of price, a little bit obviously the same with Mitchell, that you can bench in perhaps 37 or 38 if you want to. I feel those 3 games are potentially a long time for Mitchell to get through, and it could be, like I said, that Mitchell was selected because the opponent was Manchester City. There probably is something in that. So I would go Ward.
Joel Ward. Brighton 2, Leeds 0. Again, Brighton, as good as they're playing for the close of the season, and I think they're comfortably safe. Can't see myself wanting or going to any of their players. Leeds, I own. Dallas is the only one left now, and Dallas at his price, I bought him at 4.5 in and out. playing as a midfielder is fine. But again, two teams that I can't see myself looking at the moment.
Brighton's off the table, I think, unless you're looking. I guess if you've got someone like Danny Welbeck, you went in a few weeks ago and you've still got, then Wolves away and then the coverage for 36 when they play West Ham at home, it's not bad. It's absolutely fine. I think there'll be people who've got the likes of Veltman, who obviously they're going to need him to cover in 36. It's fine. Are you going to go and buy a Brighton player now? No. It's off the table, but they're well deserved to win this. Very, very good, Brighton. And what they did really well was that Leicester couldn't do on Friday night. So Webster and White were extremely good in terms of how they brought the ball out from the back from against Leeds and then played into midfield areas. They got it absolutely spot on. Leeds were missing something, and it's very easy to say that it's Rafinha. However, the bigger problem is Calvin Phillips. So I did have a look. They've won 2 and lost 7 of the 9 games that Calvin Phillips hasn't played this season. So sitting here as a Tottenham fan, I'm rather hoping that Calvin Phillips doesn't play on Saturday. I don't know what the status is.
I thought you were about to say, sitting here as a Tottenham fan, I hope we put a bid in for him.
I'd take Calvin Phillips, yeah. Why not?
Of course.
It's better than what I've got. I don't see why.
It's a good 40 million, I think.
Why would anyone join Tottenham at the moment? But that's a different podcast. So it's not just Rafinha, it's Phillips. Statistically looks like a massive miss.
Yeah.
Bamford obviously got hooked after 58 minutes. So Dallas ended up going to left back because he was so unhappy with Alioski's performance in the first half. There was a lot not right about that with Leeds, but I think the biggest is Phillips. Phillips is the really big miss, and you should be conscious of that going into the weekend. I think if Phillips is ruled out again, because I actually think it could switch to the point where it'd go, even if Rafinha's not back, if Phillips is available, Tottenham will have big difficulties against Leeds on Saturday. If Phillips is out, I fancy we could go there and beat them, actually. So I think that's quite important to the possible thinking in terms of what you might be doing with the likes of Kane's son this weekend and that. Brighton, really good. Massive shout out to Danny Welbeck for the goal. What a finish. If that was a more high-profile player, nobody would have stopped talking about it. The fact that Cruyff turns it in mid-air and manages to kill the pace of the ball and then finish it with his bad peg was one of the best goals of the season. Brilliant. And Lewis Dunk, I repeat to you what I said yesterday. If he's not in that England squad in the summer, the fuck, mate. He's in the form of his life. He's 29. He's in peak condition. Pretty much the majority of the big six should be looking to go and buy him in this summer, in my opinion. If England played a back three in the summer, I wouldn't just put him in the squad. He'd be in the team for me. He'd play at the centre of it. He's better than Cody. He's better than Eric Dyer. He's better than Mings. He's better than Conte. He's better than Michael Keane. He's better than all these players. He needs a call up, and I don't understand it if he doesn't get one.
Let's talk about Chelsea 2, Fulham 0. Fulham really sleepwalking into the Championship as it stands at the moment. I think they're gone, which we know. I would go as far as to say that Chelsea, other than the blip against West Brom, really have been the form team the last couple of months. I mean, keeping clean sheets. They're not the form team in terms of free-flowing attacking football, but definitely just getting results, keeping clean sheets, an efficient, well-oiled machine at the moment at Chelsea. Yet, in a similar way to you're looking at City and what have you, I've got Mendy. I don't know if I want to where to go, really. Mason Mount still is the standout as the best midfielder, but Kai Havertz again amongst the goals. Let's not get too excited because the 2 goals in the previous game and the 2 goals in this game are all of his goals for the whole season so far. But he seems to be picking up some form, and I think they're finding a way to play.
He's definitely finding some form, Havertz. You have to give him credit for that. The opposition that he's been scoring against, i.e. Palace, Fulham, I think does say something. I picked up on this in the Palace game, and it's the same here in this. He's finishing. It's all passing. I wonder what he does in training. If someone says, can you shoot with power, Kai? I want to see what it looks like. I don't know if he hasn't got the ability to shoot with power or if it's just his style. There's nothing wrong with it, by the way. I mean, the second finish is brilliant. The 2 assists, I mean, Mason Mount's assist, fucking hell. Pull it out the sky and then put it on the plate in one move. And Werner's assist was mint as well, absolutely perfect. And Chelsea kind of ran through this game quite straightforward winners, despite ceding an amount of possession. We saw it again. Fulham having
Mendy had to make some saves. One really good one as well. One big
save in the first half. And actually, Fulham started really brightly until Chelsea got the first goal. They had a lot of the play. You'd never think they're going to score. You talked about them sleepwalking. I think they're giving it everything they got. But it looks short of ideas once they hit the penalty area.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going to be gone. That's finished for them now. I spoke about them getting to the final 4 games, and if they could keep the gap to Newcastle to 6 points, they'd still give themselves a big chance. 9, too many.
Yeah, when I say Fulham are sleepwalking into relegation, I don't mean so much that they're not putting in any effort, but I feel like they're going to get relegated, wake up and be like, how did we end up here? Because we've been playing so well, creating chances,
We don't score goals.
in about so many games, and are relegated. I think that's going to be the problem for them, where they wake up and they're like, oh man, we've gone down. And how did this happen? Because we didn't see it. Chelsea is a tricky one now. Like, I'm obviously hoping that they drop points in the coming weeks. They've got an away game at City, which is going to be tricky, no doubt. Home game against Arsenal. You'd expect them to beat Arsenal. Arsenal every now and then against one of the big 6 clubs will pull out a performance and a result. Although that will be off the back of the second leg against Villarreal. And then the home game against Leicester. And Leicester are falling a little bit, so they'll want to reinforce and make sure they get top 4. So I'm hoping Chelsea drop points in the next 3 games, but it's not looking likely, is it? Well, Man City...
In terms of top 4 race, obviously, look, if Manchester City beat Chelsea at the weekend, it blows it open. And then you have to take advantage of that on Sunday. If Chelsea win on... at the Etihad on Saturday, I mean, you'd probably forget it because of the goal difference as well.
Yeah,
you probably need them to lose twice. So, but that game Saturday night could definitely open it up again. I just wonder as well. Ted's coming on COTC on Thursday. I just wonder if Chelsea might take a chance with the team if they get to the Champions League final, and might rest a few for City, and then play a stronger team against Arsenal, which might not make sense with the Leicester game 3 days later. But I think there's so much in terms of potentially showing your cards for a game like, if they're going to play City in the Champions League final, what do both managers want to do at the weekend? Now, I think the common sense approach would be that Chelsea would go stronger against City than they would against Arsenal with the FA Cup final 3 days later. And that's the other problem. Say like people like me going in with Rudiger this week, who I presume will be back fit, Rudiger as Palaqueta. The expectation at the moment would have to be that they play at Man City on Saturday, they play the FA Cup final, and then playing against Arsenal is questionable. So all I've got for them is Manchester City away this week. And I think that's why, in terms of looking at teams to target for the double, Chelsea kind of come at the bottom of the list. I'd be more likely to buy Cole Walker-Peters of Southampton this week than buy, if I didn't own Rudiger already, than buy Rudiger, for example. That wouldn't interest me. Havertz, I think it's more in a position now you go, okay, can I look at this again for next season? If you want to swing with it as a differential, and some already have, by all means, great and stuff. Like you, I think I'd be more inclined to go Mount because I think he's the most likely one that would get me the 2 games.
Yeah.
But
I fancy Gareth Bale as a punt at the similar price, give or take, than Kai Havertz.
We'll talk about him in a bit. Chelsea, not of interest to me. Whether I sell, I will start Rudiger this week. To be honest, if I did that where I said I'm going to buy 2 doublers and leave myself in a position where I've got 11 doublers and I've still got like Harry Kane, I'm not leaving Kane out rather than Rudiger this week, even though they're the best defensive team in the league. So I'd look at it and go, I don't think Rudiger's playing against Arsenal. All I've got from is Man City away. So then I'd probably leave him out.
Yeah. Everton 1, Aston Villa 2. A game I didn't watch, James, but obviously...
It was really good. Really good. Mainly because Villa were really good. It was a really good game of football.
I was trying to figure out if there's sarcasm in what you're saying or what have you. You genuinely enjoyed the game.
Villa were great. They were great. Listen, it surprised me when I put it on. In fact, the first half was so good. Harry normally goes to bed about 8:30ish or so at the moment. Yeah. The first, I was trying to rush him out a bit earlier, to be honest, because it was really enjoyable. I was like, I need to get this off my phone and put it on the TV. And we obviously previewed it with Sean and Adam at COTC last week. And he was kind of predicting it to be, there'll be goals in it, but it won't be good. And it's going to be a bit ugly and stuff. Villa were great. That they deserve to win this by a distance. That's the best they've played since Grealish got injured. And Ross Barkley played like he played at the start of the season. I don't know if it was because it was playing Everton or he's suddenly shaken off any injury issues, but it was great. El Ghazi was a threat. Even Bertrand Traore was quite frustrating, was really good. They played with high energy. They pressed better. They got into the final third quickly. They played good football. Watkins was a big threat up front. Loved his goal. To win the tackle, get pulled down, ride the tackle, get back up, finish it correctly in terms of bottom corner, far post. Brilliant goal. They were excellent, Villa. They deserved to win by a distance.
Do you think we can read anything from this game into the game next week? Because they're playing each other again at Villa Park this time round. Obviously, Everton will want revenge, so you can see them putting up a bit more of a fight. Or did you see anything from either that makes you think, oh, there's a double around the corner, let me pile into these guys?
I think to sum it up, for Villa, I think Martinez obviously great. Const's the best way to go defensively just because it's the cheapest that's going to play. Ross Barkley would be a big... You're talking about differential punts for this week. Ross Barkley plays like that, he's interesting again. Same with El Ghazi. If Grealish is definitely ruled out the 2 games, El Ghazi's probably going to play the 2 games. And one of the beauties of him is he is the greediest fucking player
just
in the league.
Doesn't he?
I mean, he scored the winning... That's why he scored the winning goal, right? He sees the post and he goes for it. So I think El Ghazi probably over Barkley, as long as Grealish is ruled out. And Watkins is interesting. Definitely interesting. His 8 points was what affected my rank the most this week. If I'd have told you that pre-weekend, you'd laughed your head off.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's some interesting players from Villa, but I don't think they'd be top of the agenda. They appeal again as well, because the 36 fixture is decent away to Palace. So if you have to carry these Const's or Watkins or El Ghazis to play in 36, they're probably going to play. I think it's long enough that it puts me off El Ghazi, I think. That he could play in the double and then suddenly we get to Palace and Grealish is back. And if that's the case, he's going to be out the team and I'd need him in 36. So probably not. I've just got Consa. That's probably the way it's likely to stay. I wouldn't rule out, if I decide to kind of force in Trent, for example, I might go like Kane to Watkins, for example, and then leave the money to go Vardy back to Kane the week after. Is a possibility.
Yeah.
Everton, Dean, Calvert-Lewin, if you're interested, I wouldn't look anywhere else. They got overrun, I think, because they were surprised by Villa playing with intensity, which they haven't done for a few months. And they removed Gomez from the game because they were having so much trouble in midfield and put Delph in there. But then it completely hampered them when Villa did score, when they were then looking for an equaliser, because their creative in the middle of the pitch was Allen and Delph, and it wasn't great. They obviously lost James Rodriguez pre-kickoff. The word on James, by the way, is that he could be back this weekend. But I've spoken in the past saying you never know if he's going to make it through 1 game, never mind 2. And he didn't even get to the start of 1 game this week. So... not for me.
No.
Not for me. Just Calvert-Lewin or Dean for me. If you were going Everton, I wouldn't go near anything else. The centre-backs will get rotated.
Newcastle 0, Arsenal 2. Newcastle finally made it to the beach. After a few weeks of us thinking that they were going on their way there, they finally made it to the beach. And Arsenal are an interesting team now from an FPL point of view as well, because...
Are they?
Well, look, the West Brom at home fixture next week, in normal circumstance, if you were looking for a 1-week punt, I mean, steam in. But they don't play in 36, right? So if you're buying somebody from Arsenal this week, then you know they're not playing the week after. It just doesn't make it worthwhile necessarily. So, yeah, I'm not... Chelsea away is a difficult fixture. It's that West Brom at home fixture that's the only one that stands out. And the final 2, Palace away, Brighton at home, are okay. But you're buying somebody knowing you're going to have to bench them in 36 and you're not expecting any returns at Chelsea away. So, man.
Yeah, Arsenal fall into the category of I don't have many Leicester or Chelsea players. Are they of interest? Is basically where you'll be with it because of the 36 blank. Unless, of course, you're intending to free hit in 36. And on free hit as well, I think for those who are intending to free hit in 35, Arsenal might give you something that's interesting. So they've got the second leg against Villarreal on Thursday that's massive. If Aubameyang didn't start, and I don't think it's assured at the moment, but if he didn't start, which he probably will, would you look at him as interesting for West Brom and Chelsea for the double if you were on a free hit? Because of the first fixture against West Brom, knowing he's definitely going to play West Brom at home and play up front, almost definitely.
If I sell Heung-min Son, guess how much money I have in the bank, James?
Enough for Aubameyang, but you're not going to do it.
11.3 million.
What's Aubameyang? Must be about 6.2. Must be about 6.2 by now.
11.3 million.
No, you're not doing that. Don't buy Aubameyang. The goalkeeper situation we've covered is a bit of a nightmare. On Rob Holden, who obviously missed the game on Sunday, obviously Luiz did his hamstring, so presumably Holden's probably safe again.
Everything you've been preaching about Holding losing his place when Luiz comes back, unfortunately an injury blows all of that advice out the water.
The thing is with Luiz, we know he can have calamity moments, but he's probably currently the best distributor of a ball from centre-back in the league. He adds so much to Arsenal offensively, pinging those balls out to like Martinelli, and he was really good, Martinelli, on Sunday. Whereas the other defensive players that don't do that, ironically, in my opinion, despite making heavy changes for the team, Arsenal brought their two best centre-backs into the team in Gabriel and David Luiz. The only note of caution on Holding is I'd said kind of he's safe because of Luiz's injury until Luiz is back fit. Now he's probably injured again, so he's probably safe. But it didn't really occur to me. Obviously, Callum Chambers can play there. I'd been thinking of him as obviously playing at right back, where obviously Bellerin played. Chambers obviously finished the game at centre back on Sunday. I don't know what's going on with Cedric. Why this fella did all right and covered well at left back in the winter period and has not been used at all. I don't know what's going on there. He keeps using Xhaka at left back. Xhaka played well at left back, and it's suitable in this game because Newcastle got killed by the early goal. They didn't play with the enthusiasm and intensity they have been playing with recently. And Arsenal strolled through the game and won this very easily. They played well, in fairness. I don't think you're buying Arsenal this week. Can't see it. Newcastle is a conversation, really interestingly, I think, for the back end of next week ahead of 36. Because for those who are looking to perhaps move on in Iheanacho, for example, Callum Wilson's going to fall into the line of players that will be interesting. And you might be thinking, they've got Manchester City in 36. Yeah, but for the 3-game run, it's Sheffield United and Fulham afterwards as well. So Wilson, I think in 10 days or so, will be interesting to people. Personally, if Antonio's fit, I wouldn't be buying Wilson above Antonio, irrespective of fixtures. And it's not like West Ham's are particularly bad. Otherwise, I think Newcastle interest, we're done.
Yep. Spurs 4, Sheffield United 0. Gareth Bale put in a great performance. It's funny though with Spurs, it's never going to be quite enough this season to fill me with confidence to steam back in. I already own Kane and Son. Kane will stick around for a while. Son, I'll come on and off if I want to. Defensively, I'm not looking. You kept a clean sheet, yes, but Sheffield United, we have to add that asterisk to everything.
Unfortunately, that's absolutely the caveat. It was Sheffield United. But some promising signs here from Spurs. We played higher up the pitch and maintained playing higher up the pitch, other than probably a 10-minute spell in the second half where Sheffield United changed a few personnel and went for it very briefly. We were in total control, played good football. There was little things that I enjoy, like one-touch passing. It was absolutely a no-no under Mourinho because you can't afford to lose the ball because you'll get counter-attacked on, right? It's all safety-first measures and stuff. So the players were allowed to play with a little bit of freedom. I think Dele Alli helped in that because although fitness-wise he's off at the moment, he got through, by the way, third most of kilometres covered of all Spurs players in that game, which is impressive considering how long he hasn't played for. He picks up pockets of space that causes trouble. He's also very good defensively without the ball, which could be very important to Tottenham if Calvin Phillips is back for that game on Saturday. You wouldn't consider Dele for FPL. Harry Kane, I think you'd probably only be selling kind of what I'm thinking. Can I sell it for a week, not worry about the value, even though I have a lot invested in Harry? Buying back the week after is something I'm possibly considering, purely just to get a double on and then move on Vardy the week after. On Bale, because it's the one people probably going to be thinking about first.
9.1 million.
The first thing I say to you is, if Liverpool are doubling next week, and you've got United with a double, etc., all these other teams with doubles, why are you buying Gareth Bale this week?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
And this is a conversation for next week, personally.
The one thing I would say with Bale, though, if Mourinho was still in charge, I would think it was a real 50-50 that Bale would just get straight dropped in the next game because he likes to rotate and do what he does. But with Mason in charge, I do think off the back of a hat-trick, there's more chance that Bale starts again the next game and will play now.
But I also would say it's a possibility that he doesn't.
All right. You know Spurs better than me.
Well, it's difficult to gauge at the moment because we've got limited information. All I can say to you is Bale's played Southampton and Sheffield United at home, and he didn't play against Manchester City in the cup final. Now, the Man City game was 4 days after Southampton, so we know about Bale's recovery being quite difficult. Obviously, look, playing once a week at the moment, not too much of an issue. But the intensity of Leeds and the fact that he's probably going to be up against either Alioski or Dallas means he's going to have a difficult afternoon. Now, I saw Bale doing plenty of backtracking, slide tackles, winning the ball on the edge of our own box. All that commitment that people say, oh, he can't do it. Well, he was doing it at the weekend. But it is also easier to do it against a team like Sheffield United when you feel confident, you feel like you're going to win, you feel energised. When Dallas or Alioski just keep going up and down like Kieran Tierney did in the North London derby, different problem maybe. Personally, I would find a way to play him, even if it meant he played as a central striker ahead of Kane and you played someone more defensively minded there like Bergwijn or Lucas. Although, as I've already spoken about, Dele Alli around Calvin Phillips could be really interesting. But you could drop Kane into that area. I would play him. I think Mason will play him, but I wouldn't guarantee it. I've already had people ask me about taking -4s for Gareth Bale this week, away to a Leeds team, which already over the last 6-7 game weeks has had very good results against so-called Big Six opposition. Defensively are getting much better. We can possibly put the Brighton result down to missing Calvin Phillips and kind of put it under the carpet if he's back. Leeds, for me, would be favourites to win that game at the weekend, as long as Phillips is back fit. They'll probably have too much intensity for us, being honest. So I don't get, you want to take a -4 to buy Gareth Bale, and you've got Liverpool probably walking into a double, United double. I would personally, I'd be looking more at people like El Ghazi this week to take a punt, personally, and save the money to go back for him the week after. I think it's a better strategy. I would put Bale starting this week at the moment, 70-75%, no higher than that. So the answer for me would be no. He's scored 9 goals now this season, which is one more than Sadio Mane. He's done it in 718 minutes. That is astonishing. He's got the best goal per minutes ratio in the league by a distance. Goal every 83 minutes, I think. Every single one of them has been scored at home.
And you do have to look at the opposition as well. Or do Burnley, Crystal Palace, Sheffield United make up 7 of those 9 goals? He hasn't been able to do it against the big boys, but he hasn't played against the big boys as well.
It's there is that. Flat. You could say flat track bully, but you can only look at his goal per minutes ratio should be better than, say, a Mane's, because you are quite right to highlight that the majority of the games he's played have been against so-called weaker opposition. Let's see it. I mean, for me, like I said,
still finish though. He's still a great finisher.
When he went through for the second goal, originally when Son played the ball, I thought it was Højbjerg. Originally, when you saw the shot, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Bale had made up. That's him running again, right? Not being lazy about it. Sees the opportunity, wants to go. I started laughing when I realised it was him. There's no way he's going to miss. And then when he gets there, he kind of stopped. I'll give you a chance. Just shoved it to his left-hand side. No top bin, no danger. The third goal, when Aurier plays him in, it's a goal before he even shoots. It's just a case of, is the defender going to block it or not? Because if he doesn't, it's a goal. Yeah. He's finishing. He's top draw. That's why he should play, because in and around the box is unstoppable if he gets the opportunities.
West Brom 1, Wolves 1. I have to admit, I didn't watch this. I was getting myself ready for the main event in the evening. What did I miss?
You missed some biblical weather, mate.
It wasn't great in London last night either. It's still a bit funny.
No, listen, what we had in London last night was nothing like this. There was a few players on the far side of the pitch I thought were going to disappear with about 10 minutes to go.
The wind was howling.
No, it rained. Unbelievable levels. It was like monsoon stuff. Really did come down. Wolves probably should have won on chances, but naivety's kind of let West Brom back in. West Brom didn't really have enough to push for the winner, a little bit like Fulham. That's going to be kind of, and it has been for West Brom a long time, that's going to be end of road for them in terms of chance of staying up. The key takeaway would be that Wolves changed quite a lot of the team. Changed to a back four. So Saiss and Cody played centre-back. That might be a little bit enforced by Nuno's comments, because he can't tell us in pre-game, he can only tell us after game, that Willy Bolly's been suffering increased heart rate since he contracted COVID. So they've kind of decided to take him out of the situation, and they should completely take him out of the situation for the rest of the season, because it's immaterial. It's like forcing Jimenez back, who apparently is close. There's no point in forcing him for these games, to be honest. Just give him the summer and whatnot. Otasowie played in an offensive position. Really like the performance of Vitinha. Yes, Bradley Parker, I can hear you. I don't think he'd come on COTC again if I didn't mention Vitinha. Brilliant little footballer. Lively. Good link player. Doesn't strike me as someone who's going to get a lot of goals, but gives Wolves a little bit of creativity. Better for having Fabio Silva up front, definitely. I think he had 3 or 4 efforts on target, Silva. Decent display. Defensively, not quite right. And it just doesn't feel right when they play a back four. But at least with like Vitinha, Otasowie and Silva in the team, they felt like they had a little bit more energy about them. The major problem they have still is the central midfield. Dendoncker, who's always been the player who's kind of carried the legs for Neves and Moutinho, doesn't feel like he's got it. Felt like he was treading through water for a lot of this game. Actually, in fairness, he was.
Yeah, I mean, the conditions are never going to be
Ruben Neves has not had a progressive season at all. We were a long way from 18 months ago. We were talking about, like Liverpool maybe bidding 50 million for him and stuff like that. We're well away from that stuff now. I do think they might change their manager in the summer. I do think that's a possibility. I think Nuno had to change something off the back of that Burnley game. That's what he's done. In terms of the upcoming games for them, you're not looking from an FPL perspective. No way. Brighton's the last of the so-called good run. Tottenham away, Everton away, United at home. All I'd say is if you've got their assets, don't panic. But in terms of if you have to play a Cody or a Saiss away to Tottenham in 36, it's not the worst thing. Everton away, they're just shocking at the Goodison at the moment. And that Wolves game final day, as I said, the Manchester United game final day, United might pick a completely rotated team if United have got to the Europa League final. So it's not as bad as the fixture swing looks after this weekend. Generally, you'd probably be leaving the assets as cover. You're not buying anything new from this. But if you've got like a Rui Patricio or something, you might find that the returns you get in the last few games might actually surprise you, possibly. West Brom...
12 points off safety.
Well, big
10 points off 12 available now.
Big Sam picked a back three because he thought Nuno was going to pick a back three. And I guess this is where Nuno will say, that's why I didn't tell you about Bolly. So Nuno picks a back four. West Brom couldn't get a foothold in the game. Changed to a back four just in time before Wolves scored. Then got some control. Then Wolves scored anyway. It was quite a fun game, actually, but mainly because of the weather.
And let's wrap up the games, James, with Burnley 1, West Ham 2. I have to say that watching this game last night was it was the most comfortable I've been watching a West Ham game in a while. I mean, they've been giving me heart attacks and I've been watching on the edge of my seat for a while. Like every game generally I go through the mill recently, especially with what's been at stake as well at the moment. Having said that, watching this game, from start to finish, I felt comfortably that we were just the better team, better football team. And even if they had equalised, we would have enough to keep pushing and get another goal.
So when Jay Rodriguez shanked wide from 6 yards, you didn't shit yourself?
No, I did. Obviously, the couple of chances they had, and Fabianski's save, but it wasn't ever enough that we're going to lose this game. Because I felt we always had enough. Like we passed the ball so much better than Burnley did, moved it well. I think it was very interesting to see Moyes be brave, play 4 at the back and 1 holding midfielder in Souček, and everybody else free flowing like Fornals, Lanzini, Ben Rama, Jesse Lingard, and Antonio. It's like 5 attackers if you want to count Fornals as an attacker. He's definitely a forward-thinking midfielder. Was surprising and refreshing, and net. I mean, 22 shots. That's no joke in the game.
So you think he deserves to win them?
Comfortably.
You sure?
Comfortably. Played the better football, created the better chances, should have scored more goals. And if we had drawn, it would have been our own fault. I don't think Burnley did anything anywhere near enough to threaten or say they deserved anything from that game.
I was thinking of winding you up to say that I think Burnley of Rodriguez's chance deserves something from the game. I don't think I can't. You were absolutely brilliant, mate. You were so good, honestly.
Moving the ball around, the movement really of the players and the interchange, like the front 3 and 4 behind Antonio, and he looked fit. Like normally when players come back from a big time out, and especially Hammies, the sprinting that he was doing, the running in behind, he looked fit, and he got through the whole game, right? So I'm impressed with Antonio when he's in that mood.
He hasn't played for Jamaica yet, has he?
Nah.
Get him in. Let's stop talking about Watkins and Bamford. Let's get fucking Antonio in. If it's going to be 26 players, get him in that squad. Put him in as a wild card.
He's chaos, isn't he?
Yeah, mate. He creates carnage. He's unstoppable when he's like that. And we know, did you see his interview afterwards? I presume you've seen it.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had a chance to catch up with it.
So, he's so funny. He missed the chance for the hat-trick, didn't he? Where he hit it against his foot.
His own leg.
So he said, Carragher was asking him about the miss. And you know what he's like, Antonio. He's so good. He's so up front. He said that, where was Jamie? Is like, I was trying to knock it onto my left, so it was a perfect hat-trick. Absolutely brilliant. He's such a joyful character, I imagine, to have around that squad, and he doesn't give defenders a minute. The Burnley players must have seen him in the team and gone, "Oh, fuck off!" Like, honestly, he's brilliant. I thought Ben Rama played really well.
He did. He needs to get this monkey off his back about scoring a goal. As soon as he scores his goal, I think it will be a big sigh of relief and he can play with a lot more freedom. But considering he hadn't eaten, he played well. Lanzini did well, picking the ball up from midfield and
Lanzini in midfield. You going to give me the thumbs up, James? Or
I mean, he carried the ball well and picked it up off Souček and kept the game flowing. Jesse Lingard's always still causing a threat, and just the passing. The finding the space between the lines and players picking up that space was really good and gave Burnley a difficult game yesterday. So
massively benefited as well with Cresswell back, because I think he brings a bit of composure. The only issues you had in the game were when the ball went over Diop's head, and Diop got much better in the second half, but obviously there was the goal in the first half which led to the penalty, and there was another incident as well where Burnley, they love that into the full-back. I'm just going to turn the centre-back. But teams don't do that enough. Just turn someone and test them, and it can create a little bit of carnage. The sort of ball that Antonio loves as well, actually. And Diop really struggled with that a couple of times. He did get better in the second half, in fairness. Soufal was great again. So good, barred the one moment of madness where he gave away a corner and shouldn't have, but really good otherwise. Just good. I'd really like that with Lanzini in midfield. He's a clever technician. He's got good movement. He knows how to manipulate the ball. I know he's not been good for West Ham the last couple of years, but we have to go back to
off the back of his injury. Prior to that injury, Liverpool were talking about picking him up.
Liverpool, Tottenham, and others were all inquiring about sort of how much and stuff. He'd been very good for West Ham, and he reminds me. I'm not comparing the two players, but the reason I'd said to you last week, I'd like to see Lanzini play central midfield, is I know he can dictate the play. And the games starting with Burnley versus the games you'd had previously, you had to move to more possession-based orientated system and setup. And going to the back four allows you to get the extra attacking player in the team. Putting Lanzini in the middle of the pitch rather than Noble feels like an extra two. And I think it's brilliant from David Moyes in terms of his team selection.
Yeah, the thing is, like now with West Ham, I'm talking from an FPL point of view as opposed to just being waxing lyrical as a fan. I think it was a clear indication that we're going to go for it between now and the end of the season.
Got to go for it, mate.
So Everton at home next up, but then we've got Brighton after that, West Brom, Southampton last two games. I feel like if you want to take a punt on an Antonio, all I can say is that we are going for it. We'll play attacking football. This Everton game, look, Everton are now out of the European race. So they may as well do their old gaffer, who served them well for 11 years, a nice little favour and roll over and have their belly tickled at the weekend. It would be only the polite thing to do for David Moyes. And then we're into the final three. So we're going to go for it. We're going to score goals. I think Antonio is definitely a consideration if you've got a striking problem. For me, it'll be after this game week, I'll move on Iheanacho. And Iheanacho may outscore Antonio, but I'd enjoy Antonio's goals so much more if I own him. So I'm going to go for it. But yeah, good result. Burnley, I think we should put in a bid for Chris Wood this summer because he's got a lot of the characteristics of an Antonio in terms of strength, hold up play. He's not as quick and doesn't run in behind as much. But I'd like to see us put in a bid for Chris Wood this summer. I think he's the right level of striker that would come to us. And I think Moyes could make him a better player.
Funny, I was looking at him yesterday. I was thinking, does he look a bit like Kane? Actually, does he look a little bit like him? I could already see someone doing the montage when Spurs buy him of Kane morphing into Wood. Fucking hell. Oh, no one wants to see Kane morphing into Wood. It's a good job I'm doing a Star Wars theme title for this podcast. May the 4th be with you. Happy May the 4th day, everyone.
I thought it was going to be Red Mist because there's quite a few red cards at the weekend as well.
There was a few red flares outside Old Trafford to go with gold and green as well. Wood's a good player. I think just to summarise on Burnley, we've got a couple of good games to go in, sort of Fulham next, Sheffield United in 38. I think if you're on, fine. If you're not on, you're not going on. They're more open at the moment. 100% they are more open at the moment, but I don't expect them to be that at Fulham on Monday because they can close the door completely on Fulham. So I expect them to tighten up a little bit for that game on Monday night. If you're asking me now, you'd probably say you could see that being 0-0, couldn't you? But Burnley's games, honestly, over the last 4 or 5 weeks have been probably the most entertaining to watch in the league for both good and bad. Actually, in fairness, West Ham's have probably been more so. But Burnley have been good to watch recently. And as I've said a number of times, I do think there's a little bit of an evolution, possibly part because they now feel that they're sort of safe, I guess, and they can close the deal Monday night. You're not buying their players now. I don't think you'd probably be selling them either, though. West Ham, if you said to me, right, take a 1-week punt, James, on Antonio or Bale, all day long, Antonio.
He's
honestly.
in and about, and he looks in the mood at the moment.
It just doesn't matter with him in the fixtures. The concern with him is you may be wasting 2 transfers to buy him in and sell him back out because he could pull up again this weekend. We know that, but brilliant player.
Yeah, I think they've nursed his injury back well because I didn't expect him to play the full 90 and I didn't expect him to look as fit. So I think it's definitely one to consider. But of course, no double for West Ham this week. Just bear that in mind. That's the games, James. Do you want to give everybody a rundown of what we have left lined up for them this week? And I'm going to pick 2 questions off Twitter that we're going to answer.
Okay. Firstly, obviously, late last night after the social media blackout, we released a podcast about online discrimination in football. That's available for you now on all the usual audio, video sites. Tomorrow's podcast will be Sky Fantasy Football. 2 Clash of the Correspondents for you Thursday and Friday. I can now, touch wood, confirm for you that Thursdays will be Chelsea versus Arsenal, rotation FPL and 3-5 Who. And Friday will be Southampton versus Crystal Palace with FPL Gaffer and Mig Tavis. And I'll have the deadline stream, which won't be 24 hours earlier this week, will be at 5:30 p.m. on Friday. It is a new month, Suj. Do you want to sell Patreon?
Yeah, why not? Head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. The reasons to join our Patreon community. Firstly, it keeps the lights on and pays the bills and helps keep the podcast going. But on top of that, we have a very vibrant Slack community where people are interacting, chatting about the different teams, different various fantasy games, and a whole bunch more. It's a good place to make friends and get to know some of the people that you might interact with on Twitter. And on top of that, we do an additional podcast every single day for our patrons. For the advanced tiers, there's articles, videos, and a whole bunch more that James does as well. Today's Patreon show, for example, Tottenham, we're looking a little bit more detail at the Tottenham performance at the weekend and the West Ham performance. And I'm sure a bit of a discussion around why no one wants to manage Spurs.
We've definitely been discussing that, yeah.
So yeah, do head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. I'm sure
tomorrow, one that would interest people as well. We're going to be talking about Florentino Perez and the finances at Real Madrid. We're doing that on Patreon tomorrow as well.
Indeed. Right, James, I've been through the questions. There's only 2 things to consider. For people with a wild card and a free hit, what would you now do?
Fucking hell. You've still got the wild card. Bloody hell. I have to feel for those people who pulled it last week and maybe don't have any Liverpool. Because that's what they'll be doing this week, is working Liverpool in. If I guess bench boosting 35 has become a little bit easier now. What would I do now with a wild card and free hit left? To be honest, there wouldn't be. I think I would probably wild card now, and I would probably free hit in 36. So if you wanted to go and attack Leicester, for example, I don't know why you would now. Then obviously it's covered and stuff. It would probably be that. I'd probably wildcard 35, free hit 36. And obviously with the security of that in 36, you could pick a few more perhaps risky picks for your team, like a Ruben Diaz, for example, and know you've at least got the bench cover and stuff like that. That's probably what I'd do. But this is probably wasted now, unfortunately.
I think I'm more likely, James, to just still free hit in 36. It means the pressure's not on me to move out my Leicester, United, Liverpool, and Arsenal players in, and I've got quite a few of those. So I might just stick to the plan, free hit in 36, and it means that my 35 transfers I can focus on just getting doublers, and it might mean moving on some of my fringe players rather than actually the big hitters.
I would consider free hit 38. There's a number of teams who've got good fixtures, and a number it might be a problem. So, for example, Manchester United away to Wolves now looks a good fixture. It could be a problem. But treble Liverpool against Palace, treble Leeds against West Brom, Fulham, Newcastle playing each other, West Ham playing Southampton, Burnley at Sheffield United. There's some good fixtures there of teams that you might not have investment in. And then say like, you might be sitting there it could be a number of people at the moment have, say, 4 attacking players from Leicester and Tottenham. You can avoid that in game week 38, for example. So I'd consider that maybe as an alternative. 37, less attractive. 38, maybe. I think particularly if United win on Thursday, could be quite attractive because it feels that surely Fernandes and that are not going to play at Wolves in 38 if they make the Europa League final, surely.
I'd agree with you on that. The last question to FPL Binger Stian. Stian says, you've gone to sleep and wake up with the hairstyle of which football player?
Of Dele Alli's new haircut all day long, obviously.
No. I know what I won't have, and that's the top knot. I can't do that. It doesn't work for me at all, that top knot.
Is this choosing which one you want or which one you don't want?
Want.
Which haircut do you want? I'll just go for someone with a shaved head, wouldn't I?
This is your chance to actually get some hair back.
Anyone? Maybe I don't want it. You imagine me. Remember when Tom Huddleston grew his hair really long?
I am going to go for David Ginola. He had nice hair, silky smooth.
It's because you think you're worth it. That's the problem.
Yeah, David Ginola. I think I'm going to go for his nice long hair because I don't normally generally grow my hair long, so it'd be nice to have some
I'll keep things realistic and I go for Rooney. I'll have Rooney's hair.
But post or pre implants?
Somewhere in between.
There we go. Listeners, thank you for joining us on this wrap up of game week 34 as we get so close to the end of the season. We do hope that you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast or watching, even if it may be on YouTube. We'll be back at you tomorrow with Fantasy Sky FF. But in the meantime, stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man. Sharp.